So El Bolson is awesome. I think that place actually had the biggest ward that I ever served in. There were probably about 100 people, a little bit more than 100 that would go every week, and that was awesome. But El Bolson is up in the mountains, up in the Andes, and so it's a little hippie town actually. That's like where all the hippies congregate. And there's a small area where there are some sister missionaries next to it called Lago Pueblo, which is a lake town. And there was like an Israeli refuge there, and so there were lots of Israeli people, which was pretty cool. But up in the mountains, up in El Bolson, that's where you'd find the hippies that would like have drum circles. There's actually a plaza in the middle of El Bolson called the Pagan Plaza. And so you're like, I got there and I was like, are we going to be able to do a lot of work? But it was actually pretty strong down there. And so up there you have a lot of cool things. There's lots of artisans. There was a jazz festival one time. And so we would hear from our apartment like, oh, World Jazz Festival coming from the plaza and everything. And it was really cool. The members are really helpful out there. And there's lots of them. And so I remember that's one of the places where we'd go, and we were really excited for P-Day. Like, we loved the work, but we were super excited for P-Day, and we'd go hike a mountain, or we'd go up to a place. There's a place called Bosque Tallado, which is pretty much a forest that burned down a few years ago on the side of a mountain. And every year artisans come up and carve things out of the stumps that are still there. And so you go up and you walk through this forest, and it's like got sculptures just of the dead trees everywhere, and that's really cool. It's pretty famous for that. But there's a bunch of stuff to do around there. Go visit the lake. We could only go in the winter between October and April, because the seasons are opposite down there, because people like swimming in indecent clothing down there, and so we would only go a few times there. But there's lots of stuff to do in El Bolson, and the work was going really well as well. In some areas, the colectivo is like you have a little card in Neuquén and you charge the card and then just click it. In places like El Bolson, you actually have to pay to go on the bus. And so that's a little bit different, but it does change. Like, the cost of living is different up in the mountains because it's more touristy, because it's a more rich part of the province, or of the other province, I guess. But so you have to be more frugal up there. I had a personal card. I didn't really use it at all in Neuquén, but there were times in El Bolson and in Junín de los Andes that I had to whip out my personal card to do groceries or things like that, just because it gets to the end of the month and you just don't have any left. But I'd say be more frugal when you're up in the mountains, and you'll know because you'll see the prices and how things are. El Bolson is very relaxed, and when I left, I think we heard about a murder in El Bolson, but it was like the first one that they'd ever recorded there. And so because you have lots of people coming from Buenos Aires, moving down to the southern part of Argentina because the economy's not doing super well right now, you do get some outside influences of people that maybe don't have the same kind of lifestyle, because it's just so relaxed. Down there, it's like you're up in the mountains, you have the lake, you have people that love to go hiking, they just have a very relaxed lifestyle. And so crime down there, no. In El Bolson, not really. We were never worried about it. And so even in the slums of the city, we were fine. So I got lucky. Whenever I was in the mountains, I was there during the summer. And so I wasn't there for a whole lot of the cold fronts. One of the cities, Bariloche, is right on a giant lake, and that's freezing all the time. But up in El Bolson, it stayed pretty temperate. They don't really have a snowy season. It snows in the mountains, but down in the city, it hasn't snowed there for a while now. And so they do have lots of rain, and it was just mud everywhere. And so you get some good boots and you're fine, but I remember coming home and mud was just splattered like all the way up my legs and back, and you'd have to like wash your pants after every day and everything because there's like rivers in the street. And that's I think the biggest thing about the weather. It was usually fine, but when it's raining, yeah, be prepared. As far as animals, like deer, things like that, we never really saw a lot. There are lots of birds though, and there's this bird called the bandurria, and has a long beak, and it's just so annoying. And they go like all day long at any time of the day. And so, I mean, as far as wildlife, I can't think of too much stuff like that. There's not a lot of terrestrial animals down there, where I was at least.